Hi, this is John Barnes, and you're listening to Cop On.
Welcome to Kop On Podcast, you crispy pancake. It's been a while. 26 days since our last episode. Sorry for that. I've been out and about, down to Provence, indeed, to celebrate dear Stephanie's birthday with some friends. And I've also been looking after the boy who's about to turn 2 years old, would you believe, and is in a peculiar phase where his way of greeting people is to slap them in the face. I can't see that greeting catching on in the wider cross sections of society, but in certain situations, I wish I could do that too. Footy-wise, since the last episode, Liverpool have lost 2 very important matches, and Trent Alexander-Arnold has all but confirmed his exit via the complex and most probably illegal phone tap network of the Athletic's David Ornstein. In today's episode, we shall discuss these unfortunate events, but we shall also look forward. What shall the future bring, aside from the inevitably gaunt and confused look of Everton manager David Moyes? Here with me to chat all things LFC, we have the man who puts the bottle into cork, Spider_LFC, aka Kev. Kev, welcome back. How are you, sir?
I am good one. Thanks very much. Hello, everybody out there in the Kop On podcast network.
I mean, all of our dear, beloved listeners are very welcome, whoever you are, wherever you are, in this beautiful
What do you call them on? What do you call your listeners? Do you have any specific name? No?
Well, I like to think they have more than one name.
Podcateers?
Well, I don't know. Cop Honors? Yeah, I don't know what the I mean, not the cops. No one wants to be called that.
Coppaniers?
Coppaniers. That's quite good.
You like that, yeah?
Excellent.
Yeah, trademark it fast.
Coppaniers. Yeah, but I'm stealing that. I'm not going to credit you.
No problem whatsoever. You can have it. Yourself. I hope you're well, man. Thanks very much for having me on.
Always a pleasure, Ken. Always a pleasure. But let's talk about the sadness before we talk about the brightness. We lost to PSG. Let's go chronological. It was the right result. That's, a bit of time has passed, of course, and we've had time to reflect. And I stand by my initial assessment that it was the right result. We were competitive, very competitive for much of the return leg. We were extremely lucky in the first leg. But they were ultimately better than us. And in some ways, Kev, I was thinking this is nice because we've gone out to a team that sort of deserved to beat us as opposed to a team that didn't deserve to beat us. But on the other hand, it's not at all a nice way to go out because we lost to a team that was better than us. If you know what I mean. Like we that hurts because we should be better than PSG and we're not.
Yeah.
How much have you been reading into that result? How much can we take away from that result?
I didn't read too much into it over the context of the entire season. I think we've been the better side or the best side in the entire competition up to a certain point until, obviously, a couple of injuries in, a bit of tired legs, overuse of players by Slot in certain positions. That kind of caught up with us a small bit. No, I slightly agree with you with the fact that PSG deserved. They were phenomenal in the first leg. If you went by the first leg alone, they deserved to walk it, and we didn't deserve to get anywhere near it. If you went by the second leg, we should have been 8 or 9 goals up in the first 16 minutes. And then all of a sudden, it kind of balanced itself out. And then we were the better side again for the last 15, 20 minutes. But obviously, they got the goal and that's what matters. And the penalties alone took them through. I like to base it on the fact that I think that one of these two teams would have gone on to win it. And I think, at the end of the day, it came down to a fair shootout in the penalty department. And, they deserved it. Well done to them, and I hope they go on and win it for the first time now in their history, to be honest with you, because it's the first time that I've ever seen a PSG side that didn't look like it was just completely bought. Bar maybe Kvaratskhelia, I don't think they really had to pay too much for him, wage-wise, because he was on 34 grand a week or something in Italy. So I mean that's really low for a fellow who's probably one of the best players on the planet right now. So they went and they astutely brought him in, and they improved the side with a lot of youth. You know, they got rid of all the Mbappes and the Neymars and all of that. They kept the level-headed guys like Marquinhos and all these kind of guys around to kind of balance the ship and show a bit of experience. And the team has benefited from it. And you have to take your hat off to Luis Enrique as well for what he's done there with the team in especially the last 6 months, because they were awful against Arsenal. And then you see a completely different side that has really gelled together in the last few months. And I think they can go on and win it. I think they're better than Barcelona, especially defensively. And even though Barcelona are great in the attack, it'd be an awesome final to see, PSG v Barca or PSG v Bayern. I think it'd be a good final to see. Yeah,
I totally agree with that. Absolutely. It's great football. It's great football to watch, and that was the thing that was nice about that match, wasn't it? It was like, it was just brilliant. The second match, two attacking teams. The stats. There was, PSG shaded it in terms of XG. There 2.6 XG to our 1.6, but it was like one of those games that had tons of chances. 21 shots for PSG, 19 for Liverpool, 4 big chances for PSG, 3 for Liverpool, and it was like, I don't know, it was so exciting and so skillful, and there was so much talent on the pitch. It was a real great advert for football, apart from the result. That obviously was a bit annoying, but then in the grander scheme of things, moving away from that match immediately, I mean, as many people did, it's just like, well, okay. I mean, we're okay with going out of the Champions League because this team was, obviously the modern team built on Bill Shankly's back, basically. And Bill always said that the league is our bread and butter, and the league is the one that we want, and that's true, right? I mean, even losing the next game, the League Cup final, it was a terrible performance. But
it just showed the legs.
It's only the league that matters. I mean, we'll talk about Newcastle in a minute, but the league, I want to, have you completely consolidated with the fact that it's still going to be a fantastic season?
Unbelievably, I'm good. We're in a final. We should be able to win that final, but it's cushioned by the fact of the team that beat us. To be honest with you, in the League Cup, because I think every Liverpool fan in their own right respects the Newcastle fan base for how much they've stood by their team all down through the years without winning a trophy. And was it this trophy in 70 years, another trophy in like 41 years, 46 years, something like that. It's a long, long time. But I have to give a shout out before we go into that aspect to the PSG fans as well, who just showed themselves really gracefully coming to Anfield, mingled well with the Liverpool fans. Everybody was having a laugh, got along together. And they showed the Liverpool fans great hospitality as well when we went to France. So there's some sort of at least a camaraderie built between PSG and Liverpool fans in recent weeks as well, which is brilliant to see, which you don't see too much of these days, with the banter back and forth, the singing and the chanting and all that, which is great. But to the League Cup final, look, I was upset. That's our trophy. That's the trophy that we should be able to win, but we didn't deserve it at all end of the day. Like not even one little bit. 98% to 2% if you want to count the last 10 minutes of doing anything. But that's about it. Like Newcastle were deserved winners. What they've done in recent, they've really shown themselves well in this cup, regardless of having form on and off in the league recently in recent months. In the League Cup, they've been consistently scoring like 2 goals. They've done Arsenal over twice with 2 goals. They did us with 2 goals. I know we got a late one on, but still, they were consistently solid. Eddie Howe's doing a great job there, to be honest with you. People were just calling him the next Mark Hughes at Manchester City when he was first kind of brought in there under the ownership, but I think he's a far better manager than Mark Hughes ever was at a high level. And no offence to Mark Hughes as a player, he was phenomenal. But for me, Eddie Howe's done a great job in Newcastle. The lads seem to gel well and do well together, and if we are in for Isak, I would kind of not want to see him get Champions League football, because the Isak goes for a lot less if they drop out of the top 5, and that's part of his contract. But if he goes into the Champions League, we're looking at a big chunk of money, which we might lose out on to somebody else around the world if they decide to pay the money. Because of our limits in the spending department.
I'm a Julian Alvarez thing. I was going to talk about potential upgrades, but let's get into it now, because the more I think about it, the more. I mean, I think both are slightly unrealistic, because Isak, basically a story that's gone under the radar for many recently is the changes of PSR rules. So basically, at the end of next season, PSR is going to be binned, flushed down the toilet, and the old money laundering practices, the blatant ones, will be back. Not that it's ever stopped Chelsea, but anyway, basically Saudi Arabia the country can pay Isak as much as they want, and that's got to be tempting to someone who's just ended the goal drought. He's a hero at Newcastle. He may well be settled, especially by the end of next season or the end of this season. So yes, maybe it will hinge on Champions League qualification, but for me, Alvarez is a better profile. He's fast, he's strong, he scores goals, he's younger, and he's less injury prone. They're both amazing players, and in terms of talent, they're very similar. But for me, Alvarez is going to be the wiser investment if you're going to spend sort of 90 million, maybe even 100 million.
I don't know about Alvarez. I don't know about Alvarez being 90 million in that out of Spain. No, well, we could do that over a couple of seasons. We normally pay up front of about 60 million anyway. But I'd say Isak is everybody was touting Haaland at 150 million here, 160 million there. You're not getting him. He came for 64 million in the end of the day, and just on big contract. It's just it's whatever the club will accept from, especially if the player has to leave. Now, Isak is a massive Liverpool fan. The majority of us know this. He's been touted in the past before joining Newcastle that his dream would be to play for Liverpool, and that's before he went in there. There's lots of little factors that might be the heartstrings pull towards the club that might help, but even saying that, money does talk, and if somebody come in knocking and he wants to make money, that's where he's going. It's that simple. There's no two questions about it. Julian Alvarez, on the other hand, was a waste of talent at City. I think they didn't see how to get the best out of him. I think he's like a Bobby Firmino that can score goals. He can link up so well with players. He can drop deep and pick up the ball, but also he's got a savage shot in him. And I think if you get him in, he will. I'd say false 9 4.0. It's the only way I can see it, because he can drop to the wings as well. And if you still have a Mohamed Salah there, or if you somebody else coming in there that can play a forward line, then he's the perfect guy to let these two guys that like Mane and Salah used to do, like come into the centre as strikers almost. And he's in this like number 10 role where he can score freely, because he's on the edge of the box, or you can slot him. You're talking, everybody's following these guys into the box, whereas he drops back a small but receives the ball and slats it home into the corners. He's very comfortable in these positions, so he will suit our profile. He also suits well with link-up play. He also creates a diamond between the forward and midfield. So it's in different positions across the pitch. I call it the bow tie effect. If you twist the bow tie on its side, and he can play those three spots. The bow tie effect. So it's he can slot into there fairly easily. But I say, like, if we are going to, I for the first time in many years, I have this awful, just because of who's manager now, and I've an awful feeling we're going to go big in the summer spending for the first time ever, and I hate transfer windows, and I think we're actually going to do it, because if you look at Slot's history, he improved the team when he came into Feyenoord, and it was Alkmaar before that, and he improved the team when he came into Feyenoord. People that had regular names on the back of their jerseys, after that season, he got rid of everybody that didn't suit his style, bought 17 players, won the league and won the cup. And that's
won the cup the season after. Won the league, and then the
cup,
won the cup. Second in the league, yes.
So but that's huge improvements, considering he signed fresh players and brought players in, and considering what he's done with Liverpool this season as a first-time manager, and with fresh players and players that were thought to be a bit surplus in the last couple of seasons, always improved them. It just goes to show that he's actually a really good manager. Let's
hope. I don't know. Like you said, it's awful. You have an awful feeling, like, because you hate talking about transfer windows and potential things, because I'm sure you're like me. You prefer the reality once they're in the door. Then yes, but I do think it's actually quite exciting if we do go big. But I want to hold on to these thoughts just for now, because I want to deal with the depressing shit first.
Okay,
and then we'll get onto
let me get carried away.
The more exciting future things, because we lost to Newcastle. Specifically in that game, and the PSG game, we played the same lineup. And if you think about what mistakes were made, what can we learn from PSG and Newcastle? presumably it's rotation. You mentioned it before, that it was, tiredness in certain people's legs. Yeah, I mean, is that something that you would like to change? That, he played the same lineup 3 times in a row and it wasn't working. We didn't look good in any game. Southampton, PSG, Newcastle.
Well, for a start, I think Chiesa deserves a shot. I think he's been the ultimate professional. I think he was fantastic when he came on against Newcastle. If you brought him on a little bit earlier, I think he would have caused more mayhem. You could have seen us coming back from 2-2 in an undeserved position in that game if we'd have brought him on earlier. Harvey deserves a bit more game time. I do believe Szoboszlai has worked his socks off. I remember one of the lads was putting the asking me about the stats in the chat last night and about him running like 11 odd kilometers per game, and in a couple of games has been 13 odd kilometers, and nobody else in the league comes near it by about like 8.9 or something is the largest.
Where did you get that stat? That's very interesting.
It was on Opta. So you got the yeah. So when I went to, I normally kind of triple check. So I go to the first 3 or 4, and then I'll kind of look at what they say, and the majority of them are saying the same thing. And then they say that they've sourced their stats by Opta, and that's generally I have to give that credit then. But 13 point something kilometers is what is his max in 2 games against City and Wolves, and the other times it's always been around 11.4, 11.5 kilometers, which is a lot. So when you see him burnt out, that's the kind of time you say, okay, and he has done it in fairness a couple of times this season, but yeah, Szoboszlai does need a bit more of a break, and even Gravenberch saying that. Because when Gravenberch looks leggy in the park, then we really do suffer. So yeah, Wataru deserves more games in the middle of the park as well, I think.
It's a very interesting answer. Andrew Beasley did a wonderful statistical write-up on his Substack. Do check out Andrew Beasley Football on Substack. And basically he pointed out that of our team this season, basically, in the previous 9 fixtures to the Carabao Cup final, Virgil van Dijk basically, how did he phrase it? 6 outfield players completed more than 80% of the minutes across the previous 9 fixtures before the Carabao Cup final. So basically, Virgil van Dijk, Mohamed Salah, Dominic Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, Konate, and Alisson had all played 750 minutes plus in the 9 matches prior to the Carabao Cup final. That's a lot of minutes leading up to the final. And like you could argue, well, take out Alisson as the goalkeeper, but Konate, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, Salah, and Van Dijk all, to a degree, looked leggy. And with Chiesa on the bench, with Harvey Elliott on the bench, if you just look at Mo Salah, I mean, obviously you don't want to anger Mo Salah by not playing him, but surely you can have a word and just say, well, look, we've got this cup final coming up. Maybe that's something he could learn from. But it's just this is a question of depth, though, isn't it? I mean, this is the fact that we don't have the dynamism of Szoboszlai. But we need another dynamic midfielder, which is what me and plenty of us have been saying for years, is that we need as many of these dynamic midfielders as we can get. Whether that's realistic or not is another question. Who's going to come and how much will they play, etc., etc. But I think, yes, it's a question of depth as well as rotation, because if we have better players, more dynamic players, we can rotate more. So I think, there is a big summer coming up, and we will get on to talking about it soon. But sticking with the Newcastle match, the other thing to talk about was the big talking point of McAllister marking Dan Burn. And I think, I mean, there are 2 ways of looking at it. One is that it was a big mistake, and in retrospect, it probably was. But the other way of looking at it is that it was unlucky, because it's very unusual that Dan Burn would score from there. Like perhaps Queeve could have done better, or perhaps he was just a bit lucky because he made perfect contact with that header. But it did seem a bit of an oversight, no?
Yeah, no, I've seen it a couple of times in the game where McAllister was watching him. I was trying to think, you said the same start and 11 started, but I was just trying to think, is it because of how Isak was playing and the runs he was making? Were they so worried about the ball kind of dropping to him in the middle of the park that they overkilled with the tallest players around him rather than and gave him too much respect? Rather than,
I think it wasn't really about Isak. It was just about the tallest defenders that we have marking the most dangerous areas statistically.
Okay.
Which is just basically on this middle of the 6-yard box, basically. So, the edge of the 6-yard box, but centrally on the edge of the 6-yard box is like the most dangerous place. So that's where Virgil and Ibu were stood, leaving Dan Burn completely free near the penalty spot with just McAllister marking.
When you have a team that dangerous, then you're just thinking to yourself, then why do we have a Jota on the pitch? If we know that their danger, the sacrifice that you would kind of make for starting Jota or whatever over a Núñez, right, like that, you'd have to say to yourself, because Núñez has been fantastic in corners for us in recent months. He's been clearing the ball at the first man at the post all the time. He allows Trent to step out a bit more and defend. He allows Ibu to step back a bit. And it was one game, 3 or 4 games, I forget which game it was, and he cleared 6 headers out of the box just before the first PSG match, I think I remember. He cleared 6 headers out of the box in the first half alone, I think it was. And when he was there, and it's nuts. He's such an asset actually to the defence when he's in there that I think he puts less pressure on our defensive issue. So I think if you did have a Núñez at that time, when on the pitch, then you're freeing up other guys to kind of move out of those positions. But still, if you're marking a danger area, which is great, then you also have to watch where the danger men are and where they're going to run into, and it's great putting them there. But I mean, if these guys, if they constantly keep going back post, which they kept doing to Dan Burn, then you have to think to yourself, okay, let's swap one of the front lads to the back post and just keep them there, and at least that gives the extra cover. But that didn't happen, and I think that was down to a comfort level. Like, mainly you would stick, if it was in my case, you would leave Darwin Núñez up front at that front post, and you could throw Trent at the back to at least attack. But then Trent is not that great in the air either, so especially at back post corners and stuff. So you would hope that one of the other lads could go back there. I mean, Wataru Endo is better than Trent at the back post there. Diogo Jota would have been better at clearing a header at the back post than Trent is.
Yeah. I just think that the statistical approach that we took, if it was indeed that you're looking at all corners worldwide, these are the danger areas, and you've got your best defenders defending the most dangerous areas. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
unless you've got an outlier. And there are 2 players in the league that are complete outliers, and one of them is Dan Burn, and the other one is James Tarkowski. And I would be very disappointed, although we're going to talk about Everton as well, if McAllister is, if Tarkowski is allowed to pull to the back to where and stand where McAllister is, because we need to adapt to the outliers, is what I'm saying.
No, you're right. Sometimes there was always this thing against man marking versus positional defending as well, and what do they call it? Zonal marking. That's what I was thinking of. So there's always been that argument against that, and I'm always of the ilk that you defend, you put your main defenders in their positions on that 6-yard box, and you make them watch. But anybody else who's tall and can attack a player or thing, just get in front of them, make life difficult for them. Allow your central defenders to be the ones to jump up and clear a ball without too much pressure on them. So I think it's all about protecting your best clearers. And then maybe stepping it up, like if you're talking about the ball coming into the box in an area where Ibu and were just sitting there, and then there's a lot of lads sitting on them in the box, guys trying to block the keeper, all of that. I mean, really, your Curtis Joneses, even your Darwin Núñez, your Maccas should be the ones in there pulling him away from the keeper. They shouldn't be marking anybody who's tall, getting the ball out. Maybe Jones could step up because he's probably the taller of the 2 between Macca and him. And Darwin Núñez, for me, should certainly be near that front post, because he's done a really good job in recent months of clearing that ball away from him. But then, the positional sense-wise, you got to do a bit of both. You got a zonal mark with your main defenders, your main central defenders in there, and maybe your Gravenberch in front of them, in that little triangle area, and then get everybody else following a player, and stick somebody on the posts if you can that are small, and just leave Salah outside at the end of the box getting ready for a counter-attack. and everybody else should just be in that area marking or getting in front of a fella to annoy him anyway, at least.
Very interesting stuff. Okay, let's move on. Sticking with the bad news, the last bit of bad news, we lost those 2 important matches, and then we might be losing Trent. I've listened to a lot of podcasts in the past couple of days since David Ornstein's announcement, which of course was not news. I mean, it was as surprising as I don't know, my old maths teacher giving me a bad grade. I just wasn't very good. Sorry. And so it's not at all surprising, but nonetheless, it is, perhaps time to talk about it. And there are tons of podcasts about it, and I've listened to tons of them, believe me. And the prescient points that come out of those podcasts for me, there were 2 of them made by Simon Hughes of the Athletics Walk On podcast, made 2 really good points, basically summing up the argument for staying. Right? The argument for staying, if you're Trent, is if you leave, if he leaves, he will be losing the possibility of becoming a Liverpool all-time great. You could argue, it depends on your definition of what's a legend and what isn't, and he's already achieved a hell of a lot, and we cannot overlook that. But when we talk about the all-time greats, it's a short list. It's 5 players, 7, I doubt it's 10. You're talking, of course, Kenny Dalglish, Steven Gerrard, Ian Rush, Graham Souness might be on that list, or Ray Clements, for example, or Mo Salah, Virgil van Dijk. Sorry, maybe we're getting to 10.
Yeah, we're above. I'd say there's a good 15.
Bill Neal, Phil Thompson,
Alan Hansen.
But you're okay.
Stevie Highway.
Steve, okay. No, wait, this is
we're there. There's a few.
There's
enough for 2 teams, let's say. Okay.
Well, okay. Let's say that there are 20.
Okay.
But he's losing the possibility of being up there because the view is, even though he's actually been at Liverpool for 20 years, let's not forget that. He started when he was 6. He's just not going to be, he's going to be remembered as someone who turned his back. It's similar to McManaman and Owen and all that stuff. So that's argument number 1. Argument number 2 is that he's going to be giving up the chance to be the first Scouse captain since 1980 and Phil Thompson to lift the league title. So if and when Virgil does leave and he does become captain, he could well be the first captain since 1980 to be from Liverpool, lifting the league title for Liverpool. That's just an outside chance. We don't know if we're going to win the league title again. So those are, for me, the best reasons for staying, along with one that I would like to add that not enough people have been talking about, is that if you love Liverpool as a club, then I don't think you would want to cheapen Liverpool in the eyes of the world. In that, if joining Madrid in your prime for free, it cheapens Liverpool's name worldwide.
That's pretty much what I've been saying all week. I'm like, you don't leave the club that you love to go to one of your biggest rivals and then treat the club that you say you love like a lesser team. In comparison to where we're standing right now in the league. I mean, we've beaten Real Madrid this season, but for me, Trent. I think Trent only gets away with how he plays because he's a Scouser, because he plays for Liverpool. I don't think that will fly in any other team. This season, I'm going to talk about his negative points first. But this season, I don't think I've seen a player walk back so much in my entire life when the ball is gone. And keeping out of tackles, kind of do step backs at the edge of the box, not stretch his leg enough. I mean, he was at fault for a number of goals this season. He was also at fault for a couple of Ibu's injuries over the last season or so. From what I'm hearing, since 2023, that he's added in his mind that he might want to leave and move on to pastures new. And if that's the case, why don't you tell the club about that and not just leave it as hearsay? Let the club at least make some money off you, or do a deal. Like you could talk about the same thing. I would put him in the same element as Jack Grealish a little bit, because Jack Grealish to me was an out-and-out Brummie, an out-and-out Aston Villa man. And instead of leaving and walking away from the club for free, he decided to sign an extra contract, stay that season, and then join the team the following year for 100 million. So, in fairness to Suarez, as much as he wanted to get out of Liverpool, he didn't take the deal for Arsenal, even though he said he was interested in the 40 million and £1. He said, no, I'll wait. I'll do it. You can make more money off me the next season. And he stayed the extra season. For me, if Trent does this without talking to the fact, like he's like cancelled any interviews in the last year or so, except for maybe build-up press conferences since maybe just the start of the season. But after that, he's not done any press whatsoever. He's avoided talking to anybody. And when he is doing interviews or anything with the press, apparently he's warning them not to ask him anything about it. Whereas, Virgil and Salah have both been very, very vocal about how much they want to stay at Liverpool. They want to see a deal done. And they've been saying it to multiple press just to kind of force Liverpool's hand. But in saying that, I also think Liverpool want to see where Trent is going before they finalise the deal. It could be just that they're all in kind of a cahoots to kind of protect Trent a bit in case of leaving. And then if you look at the last time that Mo Salah signed a contract, he waited until Mane left for Bayern, and then he did it after the season out in the middle of the ocean with the Salah re-signs video, the same as the Salah announced video, as they said, out in the middle of the ocean, and did all of that kind of stuff. And at this stage, Mane was already after agreeing the 42.5 million move to Bayern. So there's lots of little factors to play into it. I don't think the lads, I think Liverpool might have held off in the deals for Virgil and Salah to get the Trent one done first, so that they can keep him at a similar money. Because right now he's leaving for the same money to go to Real Madrid as he is on Liverpool right now. And
which is a lot, though.
Yeah,
160k a week, 180k a week, something like that.
Yeah, 220,000 euros.
Oh, they go. Yeah. So sorry, I'm thinking pounds. Yeah, okay, yeah, euros, 220k a week. There are a lot of arguments to let him go, not just for the things you mentioned with defensive frailties and being responsible for Konaté's injuries because he's overworking the guy next to him by not doing enough. We've also got Conor Bradley coming through, but in his defence, in Trent's defence, there are various arguments as well that I think are worth talking about. I mean, one that was very succinctly put in our group chat by Dave from Dave's LFC chats, who said, Liverpool is not North Korea and you can leave if you want, which is actually a very good point. Like, the people who think that, a Liverpool player should stay at Liverpool for all of their life and they cannot leave just because they're from the city. You need to really zoom out a bit. Think of this as a person, an individual with ideas, with people talking and, perhaps dreams of other lands. Dave from Dave's LFC chats also said the grass isn't always greener. And that's certainly true if you come from Ireland and you're moving to Spain. But it's you can see both sides of the argument. Like, we should be able to let him go. The weather's good. The food is good. The architecture is interesting. The history is interesting. It's a new language. You can learn a new language. You can experience another culture. And on an individual level, as someone who has left several countries and moved around several countries, it's an extremely enriching experience that someone can do in their life. It is.
I kind of agree with the second part, that the grass isn't always greener. I disagree with the first part, mainly because he's only 28. If a footballer's life cycle has indeed gotten longer in these years, you're talking potentially, he could have stayed until he was 31, 32 and still competed in Spanish football at that level.
He's only 26, by the way.
So it's not 28, he's only 26, is it? There you go. I mean, this is virtual peak. You're leaving, you're at a point where he's been developed along by Klopp. He's been developed up into a player that, he hasn't been the same player that he was since 1920 when he first came in. That running up the side of the wings player, the guy that crosses it in all the time. He's been much more subdued. But in saying that, it's just the type of club that Liverpool is. If you develop a superstar and you bring them out and they're scouts, it's important to the scouts people that you remember where you come from and who you are. You can do that right up until your 30s. And if it's still, at that point, we'll say, as any Liverpool fan would say, look, off you go. That was brilliant, whatever like that. But at 26, he's got one more contract left in Liverpool before he goes on to pastures new. Plus, when his career is over, he can travel wherever he wants. the rest of his life. You know, it's not all about that. I mean, if it's about playing football in different continents or whatever, I mean, it doesn't get any better in the Premier League. If you're going there for the sun, just wait until your career is over and go for the sun. To me, that's not an excuse for a football player to want to switch countries.
So what about the football argument then, Kev? Because football argument is pretty strong as well to join Madrid right now, as opposed to when he's 30. Right now, his best mate, Jude Bellingham's there, incredible player. Kylian Mbappe, Vinicius, Rodrigo. They got Endrick on the bench. They got Arda Güler on the bench. They got Brahim Diaz on the bench. Valverde's in the team. It's unbelievable player.
Yeah.
Got an aging Luka Modric you can train with and learn from for a season or so. There are plenty of really good football reasons for going as well, which is why I understand it, and I'm not gonna, hold any grudge against him. And I think as a team, Liverpool can actually get better if he leaves as well. There are certain elements of his game that are incredible, and no doubt when we have a stodgy 0-0 or whatever we have next season without Trent, we'll be thinking, oh, imagine if Trent played, imagine if Trent had played, imagine if Trent had been there to play those beautiful balls and unlock the defense. But the reality is like, there are more right backs in the world. And I think on a personal level for him, I agree with you. I think it would be better if he stayed for him in the sense of he might realize, he might not, but he might realize that when, he's playing Cadiz and he's basically helping Kylian Mbappe had his career with a hat-trick against Cadiz, and he's like, wow, God, do I have to go to Cadiz now and play against this sort of championship level or League One level kind of player? He might, it won't mean as much as Liverpool beating Accrington Stanley, for example. If indeed he does still love the club. Maybe he doesn't, but I'm assuming he does. So I kind of agree with you. I think it is a mistake, but I wish him well. If he goes, assuming he goes, do you wish him well, or will you be there at Anfield with burning his shirt out?
As you say, if you say he's 26 right now, I would have wished him well at 29 onwards, because that's still 3 or 4 seasons to play well in for Real Madrid. I mean, how old was Luka Modric when he went there? 27, 28, So, and like, what's he now? 30, he's nearly 40 now at the moment, isn't he? So
at least,
yeah. So even less, he was older than that, I think, as well. If you can go on to have a really good career, as long as you're not injury prone, I won't wish him well at 26 years of age, leaving Liverpool right now. Not a hope. If he'd have stayed the extra contract, I mean, this is only his second major contract under Liverpool. Besides his boyhood contract, it's a nuts amount of money. For me, if you're going, the sun is not an excuse as a Liverpool fan. If you're a Liverpool fan, you don't leave for the sun. If you're, you can do that. He's loaded. He can go to any country he wants in the world at any time he wants. That's never an excuse for me, even to live there or try the food. You can leave for your 2 months and live in that country if you want and like it, and then come home and play football. It makes no sense to me. All of those excuses make no sense to me as a Liverpool supporter.
Really?
Me personally, I couldn't care less. Me as a Liverpool fan, I couldn't care less. I can't see all of that outside, and I'm staunch about that when it comes to if you get the chance to play for Liverpool. If you're a Liverpool fan and you're playing for another team, then the loyalty kind of doesn't work the same, because you're not playing for Liverpool. You'll just kind of go around where it is. There's plenty of players out there like that. But if you get a chance to play for Liverpool and you go there, it's a kind of place you don't leave. If you're anyway a decent player, or anyway getting a chance to get into like an all-time great side, and you don't leave, and you don't leave tainted. It's the way he's leaving is the problem. If we said, stay, sign another contract, leave in 2 to 3 years' time, or even, sign a bumper deal and leave in a year or so time, regardless of his frailties at the back, Liverpool are making that 75 to 80 million off of him. And that's I don't see in any way, shape or form where it benefits the club. How all of that time and money has been put into Trent, and let's call a spade a spade. He's been at fault for a lot of our goals in that defence, more so than anybody else. And he's had a couple of really nice passing moments and one standout moment in the corner taken quickly, which was really important to us as a team, and he'll always be remembered for that. but that'll kind of slightly be tainted. Now, every time that somebody sees that corner taken quickly, they're going to turn around and say, "Oh, that was a great moment," but look what happened to Trent after that. Look where we went to Real Madrid and ruined his career.
I don't agree. I understand exactly where you're coming from. Let me just say, and everybody else who feels like you, because I'm sure there are tons of people who feel exactly like you do. But I just can't agree. I don't know what it is. I just like it. I really see the arguments for going as being many and adding up. And
my main one is that I'm worried for the boy if he leaves. I think he'll go there and be absolutely brutalized by the Real Madrid fans. I think he's going to get a cup of comeuppance. He's going to be shown. They'll see his defensive frailty straight away, and no good right foot in the world is going to matter. And that's the issues. And that's what I feel. I'm saying, as a it's like the Liverpool fans are telling you, Trent, it's about to be, and I told you so. It's about to be a continuum moment. You might be brilliant here at certain things, and not at us, because Coutinho wasn't the greatest at defensive stuff, but he was brilliant at attack. Trent he's not the best. He's learned a lot over the years, but he's not the best defensively. I think Conor Bradley's better right back, but going forward from a right back position, there was nobody better in the game for such a long period of time. And I think he's about to get found out that in Real Madrid, I mean, it might be the fact that it might be an easy league, and he might just have to play long balls over the top to Mbappe. He might get away with it for a season or so, but if 5-6 games that ball keeps going over the top and they keep conceding goals, because they haven't been great this season, he's not going to improve that right back position. Carvajal's a much better defender, regardless of his age. And in another note,
with his big injury, I'm not sure if he's coming back. But.
No, I don't think so. But Jesus, if he ever came back from an injury, we take him as an understudy at Liverpool. You know, help train Bradley. No, he'll never play. But I'm just saying, like, a kind of a bench type player that's on cheap money. I would take that in the dressing room all day long. Because Slot only tends to play with 15 players. Maybe he'll move up to 18 players, and the rest are just going to be kind of like experience on the bench, that kind of thing. So we'll see. But no, for me, it's just it all depends on how Trent leaves this. It all depends on if he is leaving, how he does this, how he interviews this, how he does whatever. And if he doesn't do anything right by it, it'll be a complete taint on his history at Liverpool. If he does some sort of right by it, I mean, this desperate grab at trying to get 20 million for Liverpool in the January transfer window to tell Madrid to come in and kind of, I want to make Liverpool money, but I don't want him to go empty-handed. That's kind of like a spit in the face, to be honest with you. You know,
I get it. No, I get it. Let's move on. I get all of those things, and it ultimately just does leave a bad taste in the mouth.
I think most people,
because we've enjoyed him.
Yeah.
And let's just appreciate, you know, the beauty of some of his passes that can surely flash through our minds when we try and focus on the brilliant things that he's done for us. And let's just focus on that. But let's move on. Although just before I do, I just very quickly, if anyone's looking for replacements, all of the names that I've seen being bandied about, as they say. Jarell Hatto, 19 years old and 20 days, born on March the 7th, 2006, which makes me feel a bit 2006. 19 years old, 1,927 minutes in Eredivisie, 6 assists and 2 goals, which is very good for a 19-year-old. He's in the 87th percentile for interceptions, the 82nd for tackles, the 86th for aerials won. It doesn't have his height here, but he appears to be quite high, quite tall. But the other one that I was looking at is Vanderson from Monaco, because Vanderson from Monaco, the Brazilian right back, he's 23 years old and he is just good at everything. And then obviously I've just looked up YouTube.
The last Brazilian you bought off Monaco was good too.
But hang on, who do we buy?
Fabinho.
Of course, yes, thank you. Yes. What a player. So yeah, Vanderson is my choice for the replacement. I believe me, I've
a good shout actually.
1,000 right backs. There's just the stats and YouTube, and Vanderson is the guy. He's good at everything. Anyway,
a desperado move for me is if we don't get top quality, I would like to kind of push the bucket out and go for Arne, but only as a last resort if we're desperate. Because I just think he does the stuff that we need a right back to do well, and he can bomb up that right hand side. But he also, even though he's a young fella, he also looks like he's about 47, which is weird.
He's surprisingly old.
Yeah.
Ola Aina from Nottingham Forest is 28 years old.
28. Oh, well, that's probably too old for us. If we're not going for Anthony Robinson, we're not going for him.
Yeah, and he's a decent player, but I think we could do. But I'd rather go young, like Hato, 19 years old, on cheap wages, and his ceiling is higher. But yes, moving on to Everton. Everton's coming up a week from now as we're recording this. Who's going to play right back against Everton? Trent and Connor Bradley. Let's assume they're both injured. Presumably Jarrell Kwanzaa, who've got a bit of extra height against those set pieces.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, so Trent is out anyway, so he's probably gone for the rest of the season. When near enough to it. Probably Jarrell Kwanzaa. Gomez probably played his last game for us.
I think he's injured as well, though, isn't he?
He's been injured for a long time. Yeah,
season. Yeah,
he's gone. Yeah, so he's already played his last game for us. Yeah, actually, Jarrell is the easiest bet to put in there. Obviously, Wataru Endo is he can play more left back and centre back as well as defensive midfield. Right back, I haven't seen him playing there too much, but he could. But I'd rather the height of Jarrell Kwanzaa in there all day. At least with that kind of height, you're probably putting the likes of him on a Tarkowski at the back post rather than McAllister.
Agreed. Okay. Well, and in terms of another question from Everton, obviously they beat us 2-2 at Goodison Park with the last kick of the game, and that was obviously the highlight of their lives. But what was so disappointing with that is that we played their football rather than them, playing our football, which they can't do. And I was wondering if you would play like I would consider playing 4 in midfield and dropping Jota or Nunez, or playing them off the bench, because neither Jota nor Nunez have really proved themselves to be good enough, whereas Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott off the bench have been, useful players. And I wonder if we should play 4 in midfield so that we can pass around a bit more, and they can protect each other a bit more, and then just have Mo Salah and presumably Cody Gakpo on the left to be in attack. Or another thing I was thinking of, play Chiesa on the right, Mo Salah's position, move Mo centrally, and they can sort of flip around and they can swap during the game just to switch it up a bit. And so then we've got 3 in midfield, but we've got a front 3 of Chiesa, Salah, and presumably Gakpo. What do you reckon, Kenneth?
I kind of don't want to see Diaz for this game, just for how he plays. So Diaz is great when we're on the counter attack and getting into those positions or whatever. But if we're dominant in possession and there's a defensive unit in front of us, Diaz is just going to tiki-taka around the edge of the box. Then he's eventually going to lay it off. Then the move is stopped. Maybe the ball will get given to Gakpo at the that's only if Diaz plays through the centre. But then you'd have Gakpo. Our best situation football all season has been when Salah, Diaz, and Gakpo have been on the pitch together at the same time. Because of Gakpo's recent injury, it's forced Diaz back out to the left. It's been a while since he's played there, so he hasn't gone to the byline as much as Gakpo would. So it's a tough call for me. I would probably drop Diaz out of this game at the start, bring him in later, along with maybe Jota. I'd almost, because you got Jarrell Kwanzaa in there in that right back position, I would almost sacrifice the wing back positions, and I would move Robertson in there as the extra man in the midfield to kind of come in from the left hand side as the underlapping runner, rather than Trent would have been on the other side, and completely throw a spanner in the works of how they would actually defend against us. And
so
then,
hang on. So Kwanzaa would form sort of like a back
3.
He would stay back.
He would stay back, yeah.
Robertson going into midfield. Interesting. Okay.
You'd have Szoboszlai move more out there. If you're going to kind of go with the Chiesa kind of setup, you can nearly put Chiesa in there, as well. But you're dropping one of, you're dropping a Nunez in the middle. You're dropping a Salah. You're doing whatever. But it's not going to. For me, Salah's going to stay out in that right. So if you're going to play somebody through the centre, I'd try and start Gakpo if he's ready on the left hand side, who hasn't played. I think he played like 68 minutes or something midweek. And then maybe I think Nunez should start this time. I don't think Jota's firing on all cylinders. And you're going to have the three lads in midfield. It's going to be tough, but you could nearly drop Quansah into that three-back role and just pack Andy Robertson in and give Gravenberch a little bit more freedom to step forward slightly, and they'd have it as an alternate box, moving forward and back. It's hard for me to show the viewers at home now from seeing, but you could do that kind of like 3-box-3 scenario, but with obviously allowing McAllister and Szoboszlai with more freedom on the ball, and Gravenberch to just have that slightly more of an anchor role rather than a number 6 role, with Robertson to bounce off of, just laying it back. Like, all he needs to do is do that. If we get into trouble, easily Szoboszlai and Gravenberch can just drop back, and then McAllister can come in between them to turn into like a diamond in front of the back three as we're heading back, and then Quansah would move over and so on, so as they drop back into position. And it's an easy formation to kind of counter, but I would do that just mainly because I just want to have Salah free on a counter attack on that right hand side. And if they see that the overload is coming from the left with Robertson, then they're just not going to watch Salah as much. And that's been the biggest problem all season, is that he's just been marked out. Well, the last couple of months he's been marked out of it. And especially, I know there's a whole myth around Ramadan, but he hasn't been taking on people like he used to a couple of months ago, and losing the ball a lot more at his feet with regards taking on. But he is playing players now that are almost 15 years. He's junior. So they might have quicker feet than him getting to the ball when they're on side by standing positions. You just need to give Salah space to be able to just take one side touch or 2 side touches and take a shot at goal, and he's laughing, And
that's the thing, though. I mean, he has been pretty poor, for his standards in the last few games. Whereas Everton, they've drawn the last 4 in the Premier League, which isn't particularly any use to anybody, but it's good for them considering where they were.
Yeah.
And they're unbeaten in 9 Premier League matches. In that time, they lost an FA Cup match to Bournemouth, but 1 loss in 10 matches is actually quite remarkable, considering how low their confidence was when Moyes took over, and so credit to them for all that. But
time for 2-11, I suppose.
Pardon?
It's time for 2-11.
I didn't hear.
I think it's time for 2-11
Yeah.
with everything. I think so. I think it's time for that. They can't keep kind of those stats going. They're going to have their yo-yo time, and I think Everton tend to have it in April when they're safe. So I know they'll be up for this game, but I think Liverpool will be really up for this game, especially with the couple of weeks that we've had, especially with the embarrassing scenes of Everton against us a couple of months back there, and I think they want reparations for that. And at Anfield, I think it's the best place to go to. It's the best place to do that. I think we're going to go all out against them, to be honest with you.
Let's hope so. I've just put on the screen something about the general league title that I want to talk about. Because win or lose against Everton, it's not going to be the end of the world, and that is going to be the situation for the next few matches. Although, psychologically, Arsenal are going to play before we play Everton, and that could, they could get the difference down to single digits, where it was 15 points before they played their last match. So that might have a psychological thing. But in front of me and Kev is a table that I got from redandwhitecop.com, the wonderful forum, RAWK, Rourke. If you're not familiar, then do sign up for that. For me, it's the best Liverpool forum out there. And it's just a table of how many points Liverpool can get and all the other teams can get with the points per game tally. So at the moment, Arsenal are on 1.96 points per game across the whole season from their 28 matches or whatever it is. 1.96 points per game. And if they carry on at that level, they will end up on 75 points.
Yeah.
Liverpool are on 70 points right now. So we're going to need 2 wins to win the league. Like that.
Yeah. Look, I said we were going to win it by Spurs. I've been saying that since last November. I think we'll win it by Spurs. At Spurs, we'll beat Spurs. Sorry, not at Spurs, but obviously when Spurs come to us, we'll beat Spurs. And I said that for the last 4 games of the season, we'll have a guard of honour: Chelsea, Brighton, Arsenal and Palace. And I'm sticking by that until such time as I see something different. And Everton's probably the only game in it that can really go up a fuss, because Fulham, as good as they were at the start of the season, they've been kind of a yo-yo on and off. They'll win one, lose two, win one. That's the kind of way they've been in the second half of the season because they're safe now. They tend to do that. And then obviously Chelsea. I just think that Chelsea are doable. Regardless of being home and away, I think we're away to them. But and then after that, I'm over myself for the Arsenal and Crystal Palace games for the last 2 games of the season. So I want to see Arteta, and I want to see all of them boys having to clap us out onto that pitch. That's what I want to see.
Someone said, imagine seeing Raheem Sterling as part of the Guard of Honour. Clapping Liverpool onto the pitch, which I would love to see after his comment when he played for Manchester City. No one wants to see Liverpool win the league. That's what he said as a former Liverpool player. What a douchebag.
But didn't he have to clap us onto the pitch a few seasons ago?
Yeah,
but that was at City. That was at City's ground up. But they did beat us that day.
Did they do a Guard of Honour for us? I can't remember.
They did, yeah. It was after that, yeah, because we'd already won it or something. I think it was.
Okay.
So we won it at Chelsea. And then
but that didn't count, because it was with
COVID
restrictions, so it wasn't quite the same. But yes, I get what you mean. So Liverpool's current points per game 2.41, which is phenomenal. We're unbeaten in 25 matches, 26 matches. I've lost count. 2.41 points per game. Let's say Liverpool have a massive drop off, and we get to 1.6 per game. Then we'll finish the season on 84 points, meaning that Arsenal have to win all of their matches to win the league by 1 point. If there's a massive drop off, I'm expecting a bit of a drop off, though. To be fair,
I think we've had a drop off.
You think it's done?
Yeah, I think we've had a drop off now.
Okay. Because we've got a week now between matches, so we'll be nicely rested.
The lads have been playing internationals have played really well. They've had a bit of a rest, and they went off internationals. They played really well. Then they had a 10-game break, I think, until Everton, because because I think it's an FA Cup weekend coming up as well. I think so. Going back in, and then so it was I know that it was only one league game the entire month, which was Southampton. So that's still a good almost 4 weeks, 3.5 weeks of a break from the league. So even at that, you're talking about other factors. Yes, we had PSG. Yes, we had that, but it still wasn't the league. And the thing is, as you say, the league is our bread and butter. We haven't lost it, and the league was, you're going back to the shock of Nottingham Forest, in the league. We've had a couple of draws now at this side of the season, but I said it even in December. I said we'd have to do 60 to 65% of what we did the first half of the season in the second half of the season, but Arsenal would still have to win 100% of their games and at least score 2 6-0s. That was at that stage from where we were in the season, and I said that's just asking a lot for how good Arsenal are, and we'd have to have a complete drop off. We didn't. Our major drop offs were United, and who was that? We did draw. Was it Bournemouth? We did draw with early in the season, or the second half of the season. It was something, and it was 2-2. Or the Everton game as well. It was the kind of drop off that we've kind of only had in the second half of the season when it comes to the league.
Villa 2-2.
Oh, the 2-2, yeah.
19th of February.
Yeah, so we've kind of doubled up on the draws really that we had in the first half of the season. That's it, and when you consider it. And our only loss was way back by that stage in September, in our 4th game of the season or something, after an international break. So it's, for me, we're going to go. I know we've got Everton coming up, we've got West Ham coming up, we've got, these teams should be all beatable. These lads know that everything's off the back. Everything's done and dusted. This is early for the Trent news to come out. By the time we get to Everton, they're probably going to have a chant about Trent Alexander leaving, and then we'll just step up and hammer him at home. I want to see us hammer him, absolutely hammer him at home. And it's been a while since Everton took a kind of a good beating, and it's been a while since we've given the team a good beating as well. So I think we need to kind of step up in this game and show how we were in the start of the season. Our passing game really got us. Not even our control game, but the passing game and the counter-attacking game is what really got us. And our second half of the season, second half of the game, football is where we really, really shone throughout the whole season. I want to see that coming back into the fold a bit now, and especially that the lads have had a good bit of a break. I'd expect them to be not as leggy as what they were, especially we had a very, very busy January and February. and especially December, and that kind of caught up with us a bit. So now that we've had a more quiet, more subdued March, even with the legginess, that did catch up with us. I'd like us to come out now like a fresh, like we've just finished a good pre-season and we're ready to go again at the start of the season and just kind of, really give it a go. Not Ipswich give it a go, but the next couple of games after that. I would take that kind of form going in, and we just kind of went on leaps and bounds then after that. So look, we've had our rest. Let's go on now.
Excellent stuff. So we'll move on from the league chat, but just to remind everybody, we've got 5 home games left against Everton, West Ham, Tottenham, Arsenal and Crystal Palace, and we've got 4 away games left against Fulham, Leicester, Chelsea and Brighton. And it's a lot of football to enjoy. I'm really enjoying Arne Slot's style of football. I think it's not as it's coming together. I think we'll end by talking about the big plans for the future. I mentioned before about Jarell Hatter or Vanderson coming in at right back to vie for the first team spot with Connor Bradley, the amazing Connor Bradley. If we get either of those, I'd be very, very happy going into next season, Trent or no Trent. Centre back wise, we've got Ibu, we've got Virgil. But you see, I've been thinking months ago, even before we played PSG and we were out of the Champions League, when we were still in all the competitions and we were in the League Cup final and all that stuff, even before we went out of the FA Cup, I wanted 6 new players. Last time I had a chat with Doug from the Dugout Football Channel, do check him out on YouTube, and it went up to 11 new players, which is crazy and not very realistic probably, but I want 2 new centre-backs because I'm extremely happy with Ibu. I'm extremely happy with Virgil. I think Jarell Quansah needs a loan out of Liverpool. I'm not sure Slot would feel the same, but regardless of if Virgil stays, we need 2. If Virgil leaves, we need 3, because Ibu is injury prone, and I know he's done well this season, but I don't know. He's looked tired, and we need some real quality. We need competition at centre back. We don't have enough. Joe Gomez, sorry, he's gone, as you said yourself. I want 2 centre backs, and I want 2 left backs, because for me, I'm sorry to say it, but Andy Robertson, his time is up as an elite left back. We have to be cold about that.
As a backup, yes. But
as a backup, perhaps you keep him as a backup. That's maybe whether he'd want to play as a backup is another thing. But as a backup, he'd be good. But on his wages as well, you might still get a good price for him. Sell him to someone. Someone will pay a lot for it. So I'm going to have two left backs, 2 centre backs, and a right back. 5 defenders. Am I nuts?
No, I don't think so. Like I said it myself, I wanted to see 3 major defenders coming in.
Has anyone tickled your pickle?
Well, Huyson, definitely, from Bournemouth. I'd love to see him coming in.
Why? Because when
he reminds me of Hansen.
Okay.
Yeah, he reminds me of Alan Hansen, and he also can run with the ball, but also he clears the ball well. It's his vision of intercepting the ball is what I like more so than anything else. Like Virgil van Dijk is a Rolls Royce. He's great with the ball at his feet. He's got a good stride in him. Doesn't need to go to ground. Well, that's the sign of a good defender. Doesn't need to go to ground as much. Huyson's just he's getting there. He's at such a level now that if he comes to Liverpool, he'll develop physically. He'll develop mentally. I think a bit more. So he's done really well. I would have him and Kirkes probably from Bournemouth, regardless. I would prefer Hato, don't get me wrong, and I prefer right back. So I agree with you there, because I do think that Conor Bradley needs competition. So it's either going to be somebody with an old head, that degree of backup, or somebody that's youthful that could actually push him on a bit. So that's why I was talking about kind of Carvajal earlier on. If he was available, you'd nearly get him in there for experience. But no, if you want the team to be able to go position to position in 2 spots, then yeah, definitely a Vanderson or a Hato or somebody like that would be a great shout. Huyson would be one. I don't know about Mark Gay. He might be a cheap option. He would have been more expensive a couple of seasons ago, but I think he's worth a punt at maybe under 50 million now. Gay from Crystal Palace. So he's been linked with us an awful lot. I don't know. Hato can also play a centre back when you think of it that way. I don't know. Maybe Schlotterbeck from Bayern Munich. he could be a good shout as that could come in as a backup, or try to think. I don't know, but what's your man's name?
What about a left backs though?
Oh,
Kirkes, who
yeah, Kirkes I like. Anthony Robertson's too old for me. Kirkes would be the shout. I'd nearly go all out this season for a Bastoni that can play both centre back and left back. If I was taking in cover anywhere just to build up the squad, if he was available still, I've been saying it for about 3 seasons. David Hanko, he can play midfield role, he can play left centre back, he can play left back, and he's had a great season as well this season. So I would look at these kind of guys and bring him in as backup. Is it Luke Eva from his RB, and isn't he with Leipzig or is he with Salzburg? I forget which one he's with. So there's Castello
Lukeba,
yeah.
He's with Leipzig, yeah.
The Leipzig, okay. I know he's with one of the Red Bull teams, I know, but he's kind of a standout in recent. But I'm talking about a few cheap options to come in and build up the numbers. That would be, but no, like I would look at your Horizons, I would look at your Bastoni would be a dream signing for me.
I don't think I don't think that's realistic though. I mean, he is a dream, but like he strikes me as those Italians who are very happy in Italy. Kind of thing,
He doesn't need to move. That's the whole point. But you could give it a shot. But not many Italians do make it in England anyway. So it's just kind of a tough place to go from. And the football is slower and it suits him better. And that's what probably makes him look better sometimes.
But about Anthony Robinson, he's 27. He's not massively old.
I thought he was 28. I definitely seen him in 28.
27 and 231 days as well.
Yeah.
Born August the 8th, 1997. So, he's extremely good on plenty of metrics, and 10 assists in 29 Premier League games is absolutely off the charts.
Yeah, it is.
Luke Haber, for example, has 0 goals and 0 assists in.
He was just potential for me.
I get it. Yeah, bring him in as a sort of backup player, but. Okay, moving into the midfield, as I said, I want dynamic players. The one guy who's like a dream for me, who I think is actually realistic, it depends on how many players we're bringing in, but Carlos Baleba, that kind of profile, the ball buster, the dynamic but brilliant midfielder who can, do pretty much anything. He's only 21 years old, 21 years old and 83 days. And he's an absolute been on, as they say.
If you don't bring him in, he'll go to Manchester United and they'll ruin him.
Well, yes, that's also a possibility. But no, I really, really, really hope we get Baleba. If not, then someone exactly of his profile, like João Neves, for example, from PSG, who's
the guy that we were talking about a couple of seasons ago? Leverkusen. Palacios, wasn't it?
Palacios, yes. But the thing with Palacios, though, he's brilliant at controlling the game. Yeah. And I think that's something that we haven't done enough. Like our ball possession this year, everyone's talking about how slot ball is all about keeping the ball better. Yeah. Our ball possession is 3% lower than it was last season. We're only on about 57% ball possession average in all of our games this year, compared to 60% under Jurgen Klopp. So we're keeping the ball actually less. So Palacios is a kind of, he's the puppet master kind of player, but he's not dynamic enough, and that's why I've gone off Palacios. Also, his stats have gone down a bit, and he actually struggles to get into the Leverkusen team.
Who's lost the ball most for us? So I would count Salah as one of those that's lost the ball quite a bit.
Trent as well.
The other one, I think so. And maybe Diaz has lost the ball quite a bit.
Not as much. No, Diaz is incredible at keeping the ball. He's actually brilliant at keeping the ball. He's one of the best in Europe. But Jota and Nunez are both awful at keeping the ball. Nunez has improved, but he's actually very bad at keeping the ball. And those are the things. But let's talk about just the midfield. Yeah. I think we need 2 dynamic midfielders, 2 dynamic central midfielders to come in, because we've got 4. I'm selling Harvey Elliott, or I'm not selling him, but I'm loaning him out or something. I'm just getting rid of him because there's no place for him at the moment. I think. So we've got the 4th of Szoboszlai, McAllister, Gravenberch, and Jones, and we need to add 2 more to that, so that we've got a rotation of 6 brilliant midfielders that we can use. Plus whoever from the academy, maybe trainee on, he can step up next year or whatever. With Harvey, maybe keep him off the bench. He's extremely good, but
I don't feel Jones on as much as he can as much as he can pass backwards, and like he's had a lot of 90-odd% passing. A lot of it's backwards, and he's made some brilliant passes forward. When he does commit himself to passing forward, it's been really, really good. But a lot of it's been backwards, and for me, he slows down the game way too much. That if he just got rid of that out of his game, and Klopp has been saying it even after he left. He said Jones is a fantastic footballer. He just holds onto that, but he just doesn't know when to release the ball. And that's something I've been saying about him for nearly 5 years now.
That is a weakness, I'll give you that. Yeah. But I'm also going to show you his stats, which are absolutely nuts.
Yeah,
because he's brilliant at keeping the ball, even if he does keep it with 1, 2 or 3 more touches than he should. He's in the 99th percentile. 93% pass completion is crazy. He could do it. He could move the ball quicker, certainly, but he's so hard to get the ball off, and I think that's crucial for Arne Slot. His success.
If you looked at 93% of those passes and you put it on a graph on the screen, you're probably looking at the pie being slightly aiming towards the defence and the other midfielders rather than forward.
Just the reputation would say. I mean, he's in the 58th percentile for progressive passes, which isn't amazing, but it's not. It's more than average. Like it's it's 5 progressive passes per 90, which is a progressive pass being 10 meters or more forward.
But if you look at just in the Liverpool side, with that percentage of pass completion, you'd expect a bit more if you want to balance it out, right? You'd say, right, he's got 93% pass completion, but then you look at only 5 progressive passes out of 93% in per that season. So you think maybe, all right, so by average, you should think that there'd be at least 7.5 going forward that way, rather than the 5.
It's not 5%. It's 5 passes. It's not 5%. But yes, he's on the actual passes per match is 55 per match, so only 10% of them are forward.
Yeah.
But when not forward, sorry, but a minimum of 10 meters forward.
10 meters, yeah.
And so, but the way I look at Jones, why I love him in the team, is I look at him as a sort of Gini Wijnaldum type player that functions as part of a team where Gini would also just play shorter passes generally and keep the ball and work really hard to keep the ball, although it's true that he did go missing in a lot of games. He didn't actually touch the ball a lot of the time. But anyway, Curtis Jones is like a Gini who gets on the ball a lot more. So I think his value to the team is huge, even the fact that he does play shorter passes and doesn't break the lines all that often. I do get the criticism, but I love it. He's so good at it.
No, I want to see him do well. Like, I want to see him do so well. It's ridiculous. Jack tells you I'm one of his biggest pat on the back guys, but I'm also one of his biggest critics when it comes to releasing that ball quicker. If he did that for me, that dude would just be a dynamite of a footballer. He was just if you release it sooner. Now I get in any baller in certain situations that needs to hold the ball just that extra bit longer is great. But when we're on a counter attack and he stops and he turns and he turns and he turns and he turns and the lad's already gone, that's the biggest issue for me. And he does it way too often. And if he gets rid of it, he's the best. He's probably the best player on our team if he gets rid of it.
But that's it. But let's not overlook at how brilliant he is in other ways as well. So for me, Curtis, 2 dynamic midfielders of the Baleba style, and then going forward. So hang on, how many is that? That's 7 players that I'm buying in: 5 defenders, 2 midfielders, and then out in the front line. If we get a good price for Luis Diaz, sell him. Because he's just not clinical enough. It's been the same for a few years now, 2.5 years, however long he's been playing for us, and I just don't think he'll ever get that, and we'll get a good price for him. And I love the guy, I love his effort, I love the way he keeps the ball, but he's just too ineffective. Like, you can't have players who dribble around 3 players just to pass it backwards or just to maybe win a throw-in or whatever. It doesn't really help all that much. So if we get a good price for him to fund the rest of the players, then sell Diaz, keep Gakpo, Mo Salah, let's hope he stays. But with Mo Salah, Chiesa, okay. But then I'm selling Jota and Nunez.
Yeah, I think all 3 of them are gone. I think Diaz, Nunez, and Jota are gone in the window.
So there you go. So I'm up to 10 players. Yeah. So
If you want to promote Jaden Dans, give him more game time, then you're looking at maybe 2 really top quality strikers to come in. So if you're going,
you're talking about a left winger and then one striker with Dan's as backup
well, I don't know about a left winger, because I think that maybe there's a potential for Chiesa to rotate with Gakpo over that side rather than Salah. I know he's more of that side, but he's very, very good from the left as well. So I would nearly kind of have him as a backup to Gakpo right now, and then start promoting you. Then you have a chance to start promoting Ngamoa through to the side, at a young age. But then on the right-hand side is where I think Salah, even if he stays, he needs competition big time. And regardless of Chiesa being able to play both wings, I think he needs another proper competition in there. And then I would go all out. As you say, like a dream for me would just be to buy Julian Alvarez and Isak, because Julian Alvarez can also play on the right. And come in that.
I mean, that's 200 million.
I don't think it'll be 200 million, but
Atletico Madrid bought, I just looked it up, they bought Julian Alvarez for 95 million euros. So they're going to want a good profit on that.
Yeah, they'll get that. Well, maybe if you're talking about Nunes or Jota going the other way for some money, you're looking at that. But I do know that Newcastle were interested in Jota a couple of seasons ago as well. So to kind of come in because of Isak had a bad season where he was slightly injury prone that season. But then, obviously he's done much better this season. But with the Jota, I can't see Jota staying around anymore. I would have made the money off him a season and a half ago, because he only plays a maximum of 28 games a season. So I would have made that money off him 2 years ago. And I would have gotten somebody else in that could have actually, been a proper number 9. But, when Jota's out, I think Jaden Dan should have been given a shout anyway. I just think the runs that he makes off the ball, I think for such a young player, he's so strong. I think there's a great show for him to start improving next season on their slot. Just the positions he takes up and whatnot. Nunes, I wanted to really show for that guy, but I mean, it's 3 seasons now. He hasn't done enough. He's 100% getting sold in the summer. He was nearly sold in January to the Saudi League, I think so. Because I think in his way, Slot was kind of, in his mind, was saying, we probably wouldn't have missed him if he was gone anyway. So at this stage, so you might as well get the money and top that up for the summer and then just go all out again. But I look with this new deal coming in with Adidas, I mean this season alone we made like 169 million off the last season with Nike. So that's a hell of a lot of money, because you see the deals that Liverpool make with the jersey companies are they take less upfront payment per season, but they ask for 20% of their overall sales in the sports market only, not the tracksuit market, and just in the sports markets alone, and that's what they got. So Nike made a huge selling, and especially they got LeBron James and all that. But Adidas is the big wigs, they make a lot more. They're way bigger than Nike even in the market. So I think it's better fit. I think more fans will buy them.
Yeah, absolutely. The designs weren't very good, but the point with all the new kit deal, if we had made that money indeed, plus apparently according to someone who knows about these things on one of the podcasts, one of the millions of podcasts that I listen to, said that we made probably around about 84 million euros, I think, or pounds from the Champions League, despite going out in the round of 16. We could have, plus winning the Premier League and other things, we could have 350 million to play with. If we get that and we spend it on the team, and let's say we're averaging 30 million per player, 35 million per player, is it realistic that Slot, I know with his experience at Feyenoord, he's done it before, but is it that realistic that all of those players can gel in the Premier League, not the Eredivisie, in the Premier League, and go again next season for a title challenge?
For the guys that we have now from the Eredivisie, you mean?
No, I'm talking about if we bring in 10 players, if we do what I'm saying, then we buy 5 defenders, 2 midfielders, and 3 attackers. Basically, what's the limit of how many players you can bring in and to get them to gel, to have a good title challenge.
Only slot knows. I mean, City did it with about 7 or 8 players easily coming in. They were top quality players in one season. Plus just a couple of upgrades from the squad. The year I think Phil Foden started coming in, because they brought in De Bruyne, they brought in, all of these kind of guys, Bernardo Silva, all of these kind of guys were coming in all at this time. And they're able to rotate. It all depends on what kind of format if you've got machines in there, you have to have the right mindset of player. You can't just buy any player and just hope he comes in. Like I remember back in the day when Liverpool were spending low money and stuff like that, they would just spend it on potential. Fellas are coming in with their heads down, not really taking responsibility for the team they've just joined and then hoping to be the best. These days, we see, the only thing I can say is in Edwards we trust. He goes for the right mindset, the right stats, the right everything. And that's where the buck stops with me. So if he says he's bringing in a player to trust, he said it himself. He did not like the signings that Liverpool made in his absence. He didn't like the Núñez signing. He didn't really he didn't fully like the Szoboszlai signing. He didn't enjoy the Wataru Endo signing. And I think Gakpo was there after he came in as well, but he said that he had his eye as one of the potential players for him. So he's basically turned around and just says he doesn't like Núñez, or he doesn't like he doesn't like the players that kind of came in that way. But obviously Endo has been great from coming off the bench and balancing us this season. Szoboszlai has just turned into an absolute machine when it comes to running. I just wish earlier on the season, we're starting to see it later, but earlier on the season he would have linked up more for goals. But we're starting to see the goals from him now. And Gakpo has kind of stepped up really well this season. Besides the injury kind of slowing him down. Now, once we get rid of the dead weight, I said it a couple of seasons ago. We too much dead weight with Thiago and Oxlade Chamberlain and Kate and all of them. These hold down the team. We had a really good squad to a point this season, just not ones that had the longevity that we wanted, just enough to get us over the line. And that was great from them guys. But I think it's time to upgrade a couple of players into the team. I'd like to see Nguema and Jayden Dance come up into the squad now. I don't know if Owen Beck will get but I mean, as lower level team players, I think the rest need to go out and, you said yourself, Gerald Kwanzaa might go out and loan. Harvey Elliott might be sold. He's not been fancied at all by Slot this season. You have Trent, if he's going to go, that means Bradley's automatically a first team player, straight away. And you need a couple of youth players to come up in there.
I see. Yeah. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced by Rio. I mean, he's an unbelievable dribbler, dribbler. But he's like, I don't know. He's a bit of a one-trick pony in terms of his one trick is actually a whole box of tricks to beat players.
Just for the cup. I wouldn't have him in the league. He's not ready for the league. Play him in the League Cup earlier. Maybe. Play him in the League Cup and then see how he gets on there. And if he's good enough, you can kind of start bringing him into the rest of the squad. Because I don't think he got enough game time last season for a reason, because he was so young. So we'll see.
But still, I don't know. I keep him away from any important matches for now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Owen Beck is an interesting call. He's played 23 championship matches, only 1 goal and no assists. So he's not like he's an assist king, but if you speak to any Blackburn fan, they absolutely love him. They think he's brilliant. And that's very encouraging. I mean, not only does he have a sensational first name, he's also Ian Rush's nephew, famously. Yeah. So, you've got to get an Ian Rush family with an incredible first name. So Owen Beck should definitely, should possibly stay as to sort of take the Tsimikas role next season.
Yeah, because Carabao saying Tsimikas has gone out the door. He's not staying around.
That could surprise me. But loan Dan's out as well, because I think both of them would benefit from.
Yeah, if he's not going out on loan, that's the reason why I'm saying
regular competitive footy. So Rio and Jayden Dance, champions.
Send Dance to Blackburn.
Be great.
Blackburn's a great outlet for our players. Just send Dance to Blackburn if you're not going to include him in the squad next season. Just send him to Blackburn. They'll develop him well.
Exactly. I want to thank you, Kev. I could very happily talk to you all night, but my body and mind will not allow it. But thank you so much for joining me. Is there anything you would like to plug, or anything you would like to say? Or
no. Just for those that are watching, you can find me at Spider LFC anywhere pretty much in any of the social networks for football and for the gaming side of things and some of the football side of things. You can also find me at Irish Spider Guy. And I do live watch-alongs for every game that I'm not at when I'm in the stadium. And you'll find me pretty much popping up and all my friends' podcasts and videos around the place. So yeah.
And it's great. I love your graphics and your watch-alongs as well. It's very cool. Do check that out, listeners, or Kop On ears, as they're going to be called. So thank you, Kop On ears, for lending us your ears. I do hope that whoever you are, wherever you are on this wild and savage and savagely beautiful planet upon which we roam, that you're doing as well as possibly can be. And we'll see you next time on Kop On Podcast. Thank you so much. And we've got a new show coming up very soon, so it won't be 26 days until the next one. Thank you for your patience. Do share the podcast if you can. This is coming at you free, ad-free. It's episode 307 that I looked up actually today. So thank you to all of you that keep Kop On going just by listening. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. You'll never walk alone.